Hi there, welcome to Prime Sports with me, Razak Musbao. Now tonight, the Ghana Football Association has finally unveiled the match day, the enhanced match day safety and security protocols intended to curb hooliganism in the Ghana Premier League. Of course, this follows a series of engagement with the various Ghana Premier League clubs, the supporters group, the police service, and the various chief executive officers of the Ghana Premier League clubs. And following all of this engagement, the clubs have all agreed to enhance their considerations as far as safety of the various Ghana Premier League centres are concerned. And they have issued a statement and also released a document to that effect. First of all, this is what was captured in that statement, and instructively, it mentions that the Inspector General of Police has agreed to establish a sports police unit and also include sports security training in the training manual of the Police Training Academy. This is an important move by the police service to help ensure and improve safety at the various centres of the Ghana Premier League. Also, the Inspector General of Police has agreed to establish regional sports officers who will serve as the primary contact for sports events. Then these officers will be tasked with overseeing all aspects of sports policing within their respective regions. So the police service has agreed to make some changes as far as their work is concerned surrounding the various Ghana Premier League centres, even various match centres in Ghana, in an attempt to enhance security. Now, these are some of the things that the clubs have all agreed to that will be adhered to by all the clubs before, during, and after a Ghana Premier League game. Before, during, and after a Ghana Premier League game. And all of these protocols are intended to nip in the bud the violence that has characterized the Ghana Premier League in recent time. Now, one of it is that the clubs must develop a code of conduct that can be invoked in the punishment and banning of recalcitrant supporters. This code of conduct shall be made available to the GFA before the commencement of the competitions. Instructive. Then also says each club shall liaise with their stadium facility owners to install CCTV cameras at their facility to enhance the operation of safety and security at matches. Very instructive also. And the protocols continue, quite a number of them, but these are some of the key highlights we have been able to deduce to share with you. Number 3 also says that all safety and security personnel, first aiders, medical service and fire service personnel, and public address announcers shall be in their allocated positions in and around the stadium at least 4 hours before kickoff. At least 4 hours before kickoff. And we know that for most of the games in the Ghana Premier League starts at 3 p.m. So 4 hours before kickoff, you're talking about somewhere around 11 a.m. All the police officers, all the first aiders must be there before 4 hours before the game starts to ensure adequate security and safety of everybody in the stadium. Then this one has also come up that there shall strictly be no hawking in the stands of the stadium. There shall be no hawking in the stands of the stadium. The new protocol suggests that there shall be no selling in the stands of the stadium. You want to buy water or any other thing at all, you can buy it outside the stadium, not in the stadium, in the stands of the stadium. Because we know at the Craft Sports Stadium, Barbara Sports Stadium, we see vendors moving, in between the stands, selling all manner of soft drinks and others. But the new protocol is suggesting that there shall be no hawking in the stands. In fact, it also says that a lot of the drinks that were brought into the stadium will be in paper bags. They are banning the use of bottles and other canned stuff, that are used at the various venues in the Ghana Premier League. These are all moves to try and reduce access to equipment that some fans could use to hurt whether the players or even hurt themselves in the instance of some violence. Now, also says that the home clubs shall take measures and appropriate procedures to ensure that spectators cannot move from one sector to another in the stadium. So all the clubs have been charged to ensure that there is proper separation between the home fans and the away fans, so that there's no mix-up, especially when things get heated and the fans begin to, engage in misunderstanding and all sorts. That could also escalate into violence. So these are some of the key highlights from the protocol, the enhanced matchday protocol that the Ghana Football Association has released, an attempt to improve safety and security at the Ghana Premier League centres. Of course, all of this follows the death of a Kumasi Asante Kotoko fan in the last Ghana Premier League encounter against Swanchaman, and all the clubs have now agreed to to adhere to these protocols. Now, Daniel Cranting is my colleague here at Joy Sports, and he's been following this very development, and also been hearing what the entire football community have been saying about this development. He's going to be joining me very soon to share with us what he's been picking on this. Daniel, thank you very much. Big news coming in. What have you been picking as far as reactions are concerned in relation to this very document?
It was about a good evening. Yes, with the Ghana Football Association releasing this statement. The fact of the matter is that rules existed before. There were already existing protocols. They have stated that these new or enhanced protocols are going to be used in tandem with the old ones. But the main issue here is about enforcement, because there were rules before, there were protocols before. There was a lack of enforcement that led to what we saw, that led to most of the instances of hooliganism that we've seen. And so that is where the contention is. Also, if you remember, Asante Kotoko and Hearts of Oak in that joint proposal made it clear to the GFA to take charge of security when it comes to certain venues and certain category of games. But if you look through the release that the GFA has put out, they are still ceding that responsibility to the fans or the clubs who host the game. So home fans are still in charge, or home clubs are in charge of security detail. They are in charge of these protocols that they've put in place in terms. When it comes to no hawking, the home clubs are supposed to make sure that these things don't happen. When it comes to protocols that involve the announcers, basically everything, the guys who have to be there 4 hours before a kickoff, it is the responsibility of the home clubs to make sure that these things happen. And that is one major area that the two biggest clubs, Asante Kotoko and Hearts of Oak, didn't want to happen with these enhanced protocols. They wanted the GFA to take charge so that when there was a breach, it would not be on the head of the home clubs. It would be the GFA who would have had that shortcoming. So when you look at obviously you have to admit that it is some encouraging signs. There are some encouraging signs in that this new enhanced protocols that the GFA have released. But again, it all boils down to enforcement. That's at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. And when you talk about enforcement, and the GFA has basically taking themselves out of it, how sure are we that moving forward in the next 3, 4, 5 years time, see clubs strictly adhere to these protocols?
But I mean, just even on the point about the GFA, presumably absolving themselves of some responsibility, it does appear that they've given themselves the responsibility to ensure that all the clubs adhere to this, because for every protocol, like you mentioned, of course, this used to exist, but it does appear there's been an increment in the punitive measures. When you look at the document, for every protocol, there is a price that a club needs to pay if they don't adhere to it. But I just wanted to touch on the bit about the CCTV cameras. It's so important, because if you look at what has necessitated all of this, if there was CCTV camera at Nswafere, this would have been an easy case to deal with, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yes, it would have. But again, when you add the fact that some of these things were caught on camera, some of these things were caught on the match day camera, what happened outside, we saw the certain reactions on camera, but we are not necessarily seeing the swift reaction that we expected from the FA's point of view. If you remember, the chairman of the protocol, IMC, alluded to that. The fact that the Ghana police have done their part, but the GFA themselves haven't clamped down on the situation. They've not shown a strong hand in the situation. They sort of left it to the police to do their work. But there is the police punishment, there is the civil punishment, and there is a football punishment also. And you talk about the CCTV. Again, it boils down to what I said earlier, and have existed before. Rules have existed before. When it comes to the fine, they've increased from 20,000 to 50,000 if you don't adhere to certain protocols. But the point is, the rules have always said that if these protocols are not there, the match shouldn't go on. But a blind eye was turned after a certain point in time, and these games proceeded without us having these protocols in place. The point is, not seen when you go through the documents, we can't find any concrete proof that this time around games or certain games will not be allowed to continue if perhaps an announcer cannot be found 4 hours before kickoff, if whether game will be delayed. We've not seen that. All we are seeing is fine. So basically, you go ahead and do it. If you do it, we'll punish you, which has always been the case at the end of the day. And the fines in the past haven't necessarily deterred fans from misbehaving. Now, again, we talk about the code of conduct that clubs are supposed to form or basically put together in conjunction with their fans and then present to the Ghana Football Association. Yes, it doesn't exist, but in general terms, you know the do's and don'ts when you go to a stadium. You know you're supposed to fight when you go to a stadium, yet fans do it. The point is, if that document is put in place, how is it going to deter fans from misbehaving at stadiums? Because from what you look at it, if you look at the punishments that have been put in the document that has just been released, the punishment still goes down to the clubs. It still goes down to the clubs. And at the end of the day, we need to be realistic. How many venues in Ghana can you ban a fan and you make sure that the fan will not come to the venue? There are venues where it's very difficult to keep attendance. It's very difficult to know who is coming in and out. In Swaziland, for example, there were 2 stands on opposite sides. The other 2 sides or parallel sides are fences. So if you ban me from the stands and I go and stand behind the fence, I'm still within the perimeter of the stadium. So some of these things, I think, need to be properly addressed by the Ghana Football Association. I think as the days go by, obviously, tomorrow we'll hear more and more clubs come out and talk about they react to these because especially Accra Heart of Oak and Port are very specific in certain things that they wanted. We will see how they react to these protocols. But again,
and Daniel, Daniel, just finally though, we know that behind the scenes, some clubs, have been, pushing for the league to resume. And we know also that Kotoko have taken a very firm stance that if their demands are not met, they will not resume the Ghana Premier League. Do you think that this document will likely pave the way for the resumption of the Ghana Premier League? Do you foresee that?
I think it's a step forward, but to be frank, there were some specifics that Kotoko and Hearts requested for. And that was what they spoke to when they said, when the IMC chairman of Asante Kotoko said they will not continue if these demands are not met. It wasn't just a broad thing where they said there were specifics that they demanded, and it doesn't look like those specifics have been granted the way Asante Kotoko and Heart of Oak put it. Maybe they will look and say at least maybe the GFA has done part or have made an attempt to try and solve this matter. So because of that, we'll continue. But going verbatim what they said, it is not exactly what the GFA have enhanced or
well, Daniel, thank you very much. And as Daniel mentioned, we're going to be keeping tabs on this document and reaching out, hearing from the various stakeholders on what they make of it, and from Kumasi, Asante Kotoko and Accra Heart to focus whether they are indeed satisfied with this latest development. Well, send attention to the AFCON. Black Stars are not going to be there, and already some journalists from other African countries are expressing massive disappointment that they will not be witnessing the Black Stars in action when the tournament finally takes off in Morocco. Joy Sports editor Nathan Alato has been interacting with some of these journalists, a Cameroonian journalist and a Moroccan journalist, all the way in Morocco on their sentiment about the Black Stars omission from the tournament.
Come December 2025, Morocco will be under the spotlight because every country around the world will be watching the Africa Cup of Nations from here. Well, the sad thing is that Ghana will not be participating in this continental football showpiece. I've been speaking to some colleagues of mine from across the continent, and they've got views about this disappointment.
After the World Cup 2022, many people that don't know much about our country discover Morocco by the performance, the historical performance of the Atlas Lions. Yeah. By hosting this event, we increase a little more, a step further, our soft power. And I'm very, very sad because Ghana, who won 4 AFCON, 63, 65, 78, and 82, won't be here. The country of many great, talented, gifted footballers, like the brothers Ayo. It's a shame for Ghanaian football, for Ghanaian Football Federation not to qualify for a competition with 24 countries from 54. You know, when you have the possibility to be in a group of 4 nations and you see Ghana, you won't consider that Ghana won't be here. You start with the thinking that Ghana would qualify, especially that 2 years ago Ghana was one of the 5 African countries participating in the World Cup in Qatar. I hope that it's a step. It's just bad result and bad conditions.
Yeah.
And maybe in 2027 in Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda, we will have the Black Stars with us. Okay. Black Stars is a strong member of African great nations.
I always want to refer to last AFCON. It was an AFCON of surprises. The big teams were humiliated by small teams. Well, small teams in quotes. And Ghana was one of the victims of that circumstance, and it was a surprise for most of us that Ghana wasn't able to make it through the first round. And more of a surprise this time, they are not even going to feature in the next African Cup of Nations. It's going to change the game ambience-wise, and it's giving us a negative impression about speculations rather about development of football in that country, because you can't really explain the fact that a top-ranking nation in football keep dropping up to the point where they can't be able to, grab a qualification ticket for such a tournament that they usually used to have it at the swing of a finger. It's really going to be a tournament with a little miss out on salt, I want to put it that way. But it's life, it's football. You can never tell what the fate will be. Ghana usually used to give us that spark in football. I remember when we were still young in Cameroon, usually you want to, when you talk of the Black Stars, you want to be in front of the TV to watch how they go about their matches. It was either Cameroon, Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa for Cameroonians, and also Egypt. Yeah. So it's a good point for those who will be competing for the fact that Ghana won't be in the game. We will have less competitors, but as an African, we want to be cordial with each other. It's going to be a little bit sour without Ghana. But game-wise, we're happy. The challenges are reducing in number.
Right. Well, it is very obvious that Ghanaian fans in Ghana and around the world would have to watch this on television. They may come here and cheer other teams to victory or otherwise. But the reality is there. We've heard the thoughts from across the continent, and Ghana would have to sit back. But clearly the lessons have been learned, and this should definitely not happen again to a nation as great as Ghana in football and its folklore in the African continent. Nathaniel Atto in the heart of Rabat.
Well, it's a very sad story, but hopefully the Black Stars will come back. And that's all we have for you tonight on Prime Sports. Up next is PM Express. Blessed Soga is coming up. Please stay